Effort to be mindful of time, I think it's a great time to start our panel. We do have some wonderful people here with us today. I have pinned them on the top of your screen, so please tell me if you do not see us as the top four. But because Alessandra, you are in my corner here, I would just like to say if you could just give a second to introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Charlene. I'm really, really happy to be here second year in a row. Hi, everybody. My name is Alessandra and I'm Italian and also Swiss since a few months. My company is called FindYourWay Coaching, and I work mainly with businesses, but also with individuals in bridging mental well-being training with communication training. So I'm an expert in bridging these two realities. And the session of today was about actually the power of communication for mental health.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Karina.
Hi, everybody. It's great also to be back with the Strengthen Up event on its second year. I'm based in Basel in Switzerland. I have a corporate HR background and recently, over a year and a half ago, started my independent practice. So I support workplace mental health topics and programs, but most specifically, I specialize in return to work support for those who've had to take mental health absences and are navigating their way back to work so that we avoid relapse and they can continue to perform in a healthy way. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much, Karina. And Martin.
Hello, I'm a newbie, first year here. I'm Martin Daubney. I'm English, living in France and working out of our office in Basel, Switzerland, also Basel-based. Been working in the stress and wellbeing arena since we formed Inspire Coaching in 2012 and truly help people to be at their very best every day without burning out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We're very happy for you to be here. As most of us know, the World Mental Health Day has their theme every year, but although sometimes it sort of stays on the same theme, and this year it is that mental health is a universal right, right? We talk about human rights, and this is the top universal right that we should all have access to. And so just starting with you, newbie, Martin, as you called yourself, I just want to ask you, what is the significance of recognizing mental health as a human right? I mean, as a universal human right.
I think it's fundamental to being able to do what we need to do on a daily basis and being well while we're doing it. There are so many external pressures on life at the moment. And I mentioned it briefly in the talk I gave about how technology is rapidly changing at a pace that far outstrips our ability to deal with it. And then there's the external threats from that same technology. But if we realize that by hunkering down into our own capabilities and understanding emotional intelligence to a deeper level, connecting with others and being more creative and adaptable in the workplace, in life in general, then that universal human right can help us flourish rather than diminish our abilities to succeed in the world.
No, and I like what you said as well, right? Like if we are helping people to be well, we also have to be very mindful of our wellness in that process of helping others. And I know, Karina, you also jumped into this world because of something you experienced on your own. So what is your relationship to this being a universal human right?
Was that to me again?
So that was to Karina. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
I think
sorry,
she's just on
the
mute.
sound broke up. The sound broke up. I didn't quite hear. Okay,
Oh,
Karina.
well,
right. I think there's something about this theme about it being a universal right that is very personal, which means it's mine, it's not debatable, and no one can take it away from me. In the same way that you look at rights as right to education or right to freedom and so on and so forth. And I think the way this becomes personal is how do we learn and how do I learn to advocate for this right every day? Whether it's setting my boundaries towards people I work with, whether it's saying I'm taking time for myself to do something good for me, or whether it's educating someone that something they said was stigmatizing. And so I think this theme about it being a right and what we can do personally really has a lot to do with, of course, knowing where we can get access for support, but also how do we claim this right as ours and stand up for it.
I think that takes a lot more than we realize, right? To be able to actually say that this is mine, this is nobody can sort of fight me on this. And I think that's a really powerful statement. Speaking about the stigma, Alessandra, we've known each other for now a couple of years, and I think one of the first conversations we had was around the stigmatization of mental health, especially in different regions and in different areas. So, I mean, what do you think, like, what role does stigma play in hindering that realization that mental health is a human right?
That's a great question. Thank you, Charlene. So when we talk about stigma, it means that we perpetuate the silence and the shame of people that might not talk, therefore, about their mental distress. So if we are preventing people from talking openly about that, it means we prevent them from seeking help. And the taboo also further contributes to these misunderstandings and links between mental distress or mental illness and weakness, which is absolutely not. So once again, if we continue stigmatizing, then we prevent ourselves from having those open conversations, right? That are needed for mental health to be on the same level of physical health, and of course to be, as you were saying, a universal human right. So something that it is ours. It's not an optional, it's ours, as Karina was saying.
I really appreciate that. And just because I want to kind of incorporate this into different locations, you know, Martin, you're saying you are living in France, working out of Basel. Do you see the differentiation between stigma based off of location?
It might be just me, but your sound breaks up. No one else's does.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. It's
okay.
It's not volume, it's transmission problem.
Yeah, I apologize. I've turned all the Wi-Fi off on everything else. But I guess, but what we're asking is about a bit of the stigmatization, and you living in France and working out of Basel, do you feel the stigmatization around mental health is changing depending on the location?
Sadly, no. And also sadly, it hasn't really changed in the last 10 years. In large organizations, people are still frightened to talk up about it because there's a stigma attached to career progression and that sort of thing. And I think potentially the COVID years helped people reprioritize what was good for them and what was not good for them, and help them gain some strength in actually focusing on true values and beliefs and that sort of thing. But even just the other week, you know, I had a client who was embarrassed to say and seek help, that he needed the help. And part of the embarrassment, which I find somewhat surprising, is that he didn't quite get to burnout. So the idea that you need to actually collapse at the workplace in order to be taken seriously is still prevalent. And it doesn't change on geography. So sadly, no.
Yeah, that is a big topic that we often encounter, right? You have to actually have that mental breakdown before someone takes you seriously. And I think...
You're breaking up again, Charlene.
Now it's breaking up also for me. Yeah.
Okay, Naomi, I'll let you take over for now, just while I figure this quick. Can you hear me? Naomi, can you take over for a second just while I figure out the Wi-Fi?
Well, that was perfect.
Oh, isn't that always the case? It's always perfect when I don't need it.
Always. There we go.
But I do see that Julie has her hand up. I do want to know if you do have a quick question.
It was, thank you. It was more of a statement than a question. I burnt out about 6 months before COVID, and decided not to go back to my employer. And actually, in the process of figuring out what I was going to do and where I was going to go, I went into my network of senior leaders from different countries that I'd worked with in different companies. And every single one of them said, do not talk about your burnout because nobody will employ you. And I talked to about 10 different people. And as a result of that, I've been really public on LinkedIn about my burnout. I worked with a professional burnout coach in the UK when I got stuck. It took me about 3 years to recover, but I've been working for about 2 of those, and I am very employable. And I think for me, being vocal about it is really important. I talked about, this is what happened, but this is why it won't happen again. And this is what I've learned from it. And this is why my resilience is higher. And I think there is still stigma there, but the more people that talk about it, the more that we will do in small steps to lower it. But as Martin says, the stigma is out there and it's big.
Absolutely. I'm thank you for sharing that with us. You know, I think a lot of people experience this where they do feel as if they say something, they are told that they do not have the same opportunities, which is quite scary, right? Because when we go in and we have a burnout and we tell our company it's because of them, is it 100% because of our company? Is it because of what's going on in our personal lives? And how do we really find that balance and have that understanding that life is a little bit bigger than work? But that is actually a very good statement, right? So I guess for the three of you and whomever would like to kind of take this on, what do you think that organizations, local governments or individuals can take to advocate for these mental health rights? I mean, how do we protect these people and advocate for change at a local and at a global level?
So if I can go, perhaps what I was really, thank you also, Julie, for sharing with everyone. I think is really important and really brave. And I think, and I've said this in different occasions, I think that what companies can do, but actually I think it should be broader. Governments should create policies for that. And when we integrate them into company health and safety framework or policies, this can become really powerful. Because we do have health and safety policies for physical health. So why not starting? We need to start with something, right? So why not starting from the holistic health perspective? And of course, all that has to do with education, training, upskilling, even from the very time of the interview to the first upskilling that one does, mental health shall be in the conversation. And then it should be something that it continuously, that people continuously get educated at. So again, the normalization of this as a topic for prevention, because sometimes, you know, what's happening is that it is difficult sometimes to say, okay, we prevent because we go and patch things up. So when it's too late, what if we would educate on prevention and have health and safety policies then on that?
I'd like to expand on what Alessandra said, because I think it definitely begins with policies, right? Whether you're talking about the government or in your communities or in the workplace. And I think even before that, it's just understanding that this is not a debatable topic anymore. And I think when you see the themes of the World Mental Health Day over the past 2 years, there's a universality to it, which is this is no longer specific to a community or a demographic or a type, a specific group. It really is for everyone. And the question for me is, how can we include people who actually have experience with mental health in the creation of the policies and in its implementation? And then how do we bring it to our younger, to the kids in school, because that's where it really begins. And I think, for those of you who've been through the mental health first aid programs, we know that our mental health and our vulnerabilities to this starts at a very young age. So I think it is a systematic approach. I think it requires different stakeholders and perspectives to really bring this into action and implementation. And maybe the last point, as a challenge that I also create for myself as a service provider is, how do I also make my services not just about information and education alone, but also help in the implementation and embedding it in the cultures that we actually influence?
Absolutely.
And if I can build on that last point, I think is vital. How are we going to get this embedded in the culture? I think there's already some evidence out there that by embedding well-being practices in organizations can actually not only improve productivity, but reduce absenteeism, increase engagement. So Gallup do an awful lot of work on engagement, and the more engaged employees are, the less mental illness there is in an organization. And that involves conversation and connecting with people, truly leaders, managers, team colleagues connecting with each other. But there's also a huge amount of information and data out there. And I think sometimes you can use the data to demonstrate that by embedding these practices, and it's not just information, it's doing, into organizations, you can improve the whole culture of the organization. The challenge is, of course, you've got those people that like to wear the very dominant red anger management type badge as a badge of honor. But slowly that kind of leadership is going to be whittled away, and the more considerate, collaborative kind of leadership will come in. But there are some very, very simple things that you can do. And I think it was touched on just now that bringing it into schools, so kids that can learn some very simple techniques to help understand emotions, where they are, what they're doing, and what it means to them, and the information that's giving them, how to regulate their emotions and how to be at their best every day, have, again, demonstrated that they do better in exam scores and that sort of thing. So that's just a culture that needs to start right from grassroots, if you like, that will slowly filter through into the workplace. And my view is all the time you teach the children, you teach the parents too. And if the parents get to learn it, then they can take it into the workplace.
I like that. I do think that's true. I think, right? I think, if, when we do start developing these different sort of practices within the children, you do sort of teach everyone around them. I see in the chat, Irene said, it's truly recognizing that mental health is just as important as our physical health, right? We take off when we're sick, but if we're not feeling okay in our minds, we still sort of feel this obligation to show up for everybody in the same capacity when we're not always there. And I think that often can lead to that burnout.
Yeah.
We do have a question. Megan Camper says, how long do you think it will take for dominant leadership to change and for more mental health friendly culture to become a norm?
There's this bit between awareness and acceptance, which can be huge. From acceptance to action often doesn't take much time. I think maybe it's more about generating the awareness, and the more times people see the awareness, they get to the point where they accept it, and they'll accept it and take the action to do the change. Maybe they're just not seeing it enough yet.
So one of the things that comes up in discussion quite frequently is that mental health protective services can be a bit of a marginalized topic. What do you think, any one of you who would like to jump in, how do we sort of work towards ensuring equal access to those mental health services, support for all, regardless of their background or their circumstances? What do you think would be a very good global approach, especially when we talk about mental health being a universal human right?
Maybe I can just share a little thing. So there are many methods when it comes to mental issues, healing, coaching, trauma-related behavior. And these methods are studied, and there are many people who, during the study of these methods, need to present cases. So these people are not allowed to charge for that, or maybe if then like a 1/5 or 1/4. So I think it would be good to have a list to somehow pull all these people who study but are already very good because they have done the training, to have this pool and show it, to make it accessible to just everyone, through companies, just everywhere, in shops, because people don't know that they could have a healing session, 3 healing sessions, coaching for free or for a fraction of the price. And I think that would be already a very good start.
Thank you for sharing. Alessandra, I don't know if you were going to say something, or Karina as well. I didn't hear. Thank you, Monica.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I just wanted to build on that too. I wanted to make an example of, repeating myself, but in the UK, for example, there are the government is considering making the mental health first aid training compulsory for organizations. So this really shows us how there is an actual effort and policies coming from government to make a real change within organization. And we know how the mental health first aid training, how powerful it can be. So again, once again, the role of education in schools, as Karina was saying, university, workplace, it's already part of international agendas like the UN Sustainable Development Goals, right? So if we continue doing this, I really see how this can break barriers. Surely we have to know that this is a challenge. We still know that there is unequal healthcare access in general. So both mental and physical health are in this journey together, is holistic health. So I think is a big question. However, if we can start really by doing individual baby steps, as we are doing right now, and then, also having entire countries, entire countries' agendas, that is a step forward.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I think there's also an opportunity to understand mental health from the different parts of the journey we often find ourselves in, right? So when you think about prevention, awareness, intervention, recovery, it's understanding what's the type of support that we need and for what. And I think that the beauty of having more awareness around mental health is there's so much out there that even will cost you nothing monetarily, but is it the right thing? So I think part of the conversation around access is what is the appropriate support and where can you get it from? And then how do we build up the service providers? Because what we've found over time is there are more people in need than providers who can offer the help. So I don't have an answer to it, but I think there's a bigger question around access, which is understanding the range of interventions that's available to us, and how do we then encourage quality supply of services to meet the demands that we're seeing.
For sure. Thank you, Martin. Is there anything you wanted to add on that?
Well, the thing that crossed my mind as I was listening to everybody else was, wouldn't it be nice if we had a champion? It's a bit like the Invictus Games. You've got Prince Harry, and he highlighted that sports people with one leg can actually run races. Somehow getting a global figure, a champion, to support the cause would make huge shifts in the awareness and just the accessibility to talk about mental health rather than to not talk about it. Absolutely. I have no solution to that.
Yeah. No, and actually, I really like what you all sort of said, right? Is that there sort of has to be this advocacy, there has to be this group. How do we bring together these resources? And I know we are just brand new and we are quite small in our toddler phase of our business, but really that is what UP's main goal is, right? And I think with everybody that has jumped on board and being part of our UP community, but also people that have found the usefulness and the support through reaching out to these different resources, I think on both sides, we're already working in the right direction. So, just I would like to ask, just as the last question for the three of you, please, what do you think UP is doing or UP can do to really, really help break this stigma and to work towards making this universal right really happen?
So I think that you are creating a space of community and collaboration. If we think how many people you are putting together in this precise moment, I always say as well, why don't psychologists, psychiatrists, coaches, and doctors work all together? That would be an ideal world, right? What we could do all together for holistic health. Why is this still so separate? And what you are doing is normalizing the discussion about mental distress and putting people together so then we can cooperate. At the end, it's a lot about that. So I wish this for the future, not to be, any type of division, but to be all there for the goal of health, of general health.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I think what I've also appreciated from the work that you do with UP is you are expanding that conversation of mental health. It's not just about the specific conditions one might experience in their lifetime, but it's really about overall well-being, its resilience, the blogs that you put out every week. I mean, it really expands our understanding of what it is about and why we all experience it every day and why we all have it. And I think that's really crucial as we continue to evolve the maturity of mental health conversations and interventions over time.
Thank you, Karina.
Well, I've only recently been made aware of UP and joined in with the movement. But what I really do appreciate is the focal point. It's like one voice. It's a pinpoint that then has a big megaphone and starts reaching out to all sorts of organizations and communities that require the help. Or maybe not, you're just increasing the awareness. I think what we could do as members of that platform is to echo the voice that you put out there and share it wider and wider, because only through being that loud megaphone and cutting through all the rest of the noise that's going on in the world will we get the message through. My only wish, and I look at the screen and I look down the list of delegates who are listening in, is somehow get more men involved.
Yeah.
Where are the men? And
Agreed.
And I experienced this myself at an exhibition where women would come up and start to talk about things. I say, so what's going on for you? And they say, oh, it's not me, it's my husband. 100% the women say, it's not me, it's my husband. So where's the husband? Oh, he's stressing about work at home. Well, come on, guys.
Right.
And ladies on this call, if you've got a man like that, come on, get them, because their mental health is affecting your mental health. Wow,
that's really, I don't think you understand how loud that carries, because I do think oftentimes, especially when we're in relationships, we can take on that stress of the person that we're with instead of really understanding that there is a degree of separation. And it has been quite a bit of a challenge for us to sort of build our male population. But when we do really bring it in, we're very grateful for the people that are able to speak about it and the men that are able to speak up, because I think that really opens that door and that sort of softens that blow that they were not so much used to, right? I think a lot of men are raised to believe that they have to be a certain way. And so to see that sort of guidance in a different perspective, I think is incredibly powerful. I just want to say thank you to everybody for being here. Thank you for everything that all of you do as part of our UP community. For everybody who joined today, the people that were here are all on our platform, and we have even more people that we didn't see today. So do yourself the favor. It's not just about our physical health. It's not just about the health we're eating, but it is really about taking care of our minds and the ripple effect we can have on the world when we do start taking care of ourselves and being aware. And it is a vulnerable position to be in, but we always applaud you for doing that. And if you ever need anything, you know where to find us. And if you ever need a cheerleader, Naomi is right there because she's the best one to do that for you. Thank you to our wonderful panel speakers, Alessandra, Karina, Martin. Thank you to everyone who showed up for themselves today. And we wish you a beautiful World Mental Health Day. Don't let it just be a day. Don't let it stop today. And you know where to find us. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
See you soon.
Bye.